Hi everybody and welcome back to the Coach G Show. Today I'm joined once again by one of the sharpest defensive minds in world rugby, Omar Mouneimne. In our first episode we covered his journey. Today we go way deeper: defense, aggression, mindset, systems. Whether you're a coach, a player or someone who loves the game, this one is packed with practical gold. So let's dive in. Omar brother, great to see you. How have you been, man?
Yeah, good, my brother. Very, very good. All the better for seeing you.
I've been really looking forward to this chat, man. You always have so much energy, but what have you been up to? Where are you now at the moment? You still in the UK?
Yeah, so I'm still based in the UK. For the last year, I've basically taken a sabbatical to try and spend more time with family. So I still consult sort of worldwide for a couple of pro teams and some semi-pro teams, remotely on the ground for a week, come back home, etc. And I've got some other sideline businesses. But I've been sort of away from the day-to-day of the pro game for a year. It's been really eye-opening after being in the day-to-day like non-stop. So it's been good. It's been good.
Oh man, I can definitely resonate with that. Myself also taking a bit of a break of coaching, before I get that next coaching opportunity has actually been brilliant, just spending time with the family and also enjoying that space of consulting with teams and mentoring coaches and players. It's actually been very, rewarding. Working with people, like-minded people, that's been brilliant. And most importantly, I'm enjoying my weekends. Sunday mornings I'm waking up, I'm like, okay, what are we having for lunch? Instead of waking up Sunday mornings, okay, I need to review this, okay, I need to prep my meeting, I need to a lot of people don't realize that. But Omar, I just want to say firstly, thanks for our previous episode on the previous pod. It was unbelievable. And as a coach, I always tell my players and the people that I mentor, you sometimes you got to take an audit, you got to check in with yourself, see what you're doing. And after that part, it was so brilliant. And I'm like, we didn't speak enough about defense, and I'm also now on this journey that I'm leveling up as a coach. I'm focusing on other areas. I want a pack not just to be a strong scrummaging pack, but also I want them to be intelligent, high rugby IQ. I want them to be aggressive. I want them to be fit. I want them to be able to be strong, fit and focused, which is very important for me. And, since Stop Coaching, I have a community on school, which has been brilliant. And there's so many topics, and then we're going to talk about that. I know you got your own community as well.
Yeah.
But defense, this is probably a very hot topic at the moment because we see the game. A lot of people are focusing on attack. I had AB Zondag here with his dad, or with Alan as well. Attack. So you can actually bring out your defense.
Well, I want him to get so I can attack him.
But yeah, so firstly, I think let's start there. There's such a massive emphasis at the moment, whether it's from World Rugby, whether it's from sponsors or media. They want to see this expansive game. We've seen at times the Springboks being criticized for their boring style kicking game, but their game has evolved as well. So what do you feel right now at the moment with everybody talking about attack? What impact do you feel that will have on defensive systems, or does defense still has its place in the modern game?
Well, I think the attack side of things has, it's going through that golden era, like I mentioned last time. And the golden era basically is you look at the lack of consequence, well, not the lack of consequence, the lack of shackles, even from the attack coaches themselves, where 5 years ago you'd speak about, don't let the ball fall on the floor, be neat at the line, etc. Now, if I make a pass and it goes to the ground and it bounces backwards, guys are tapping on that pass to three other guys, tap, 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 which is hard for the defense to recover. And the message is keep continuity and speed of ball and keep offload and flow. So ball hits the ground, you flick it off the deck, guy catches another no-look pass, the defense tries to get there, they can't stop the play in time, and before you know it, they're in behind, and that lightning quick ball, basketball offload style is all in play. So it's a really dynamic, unique situation because, 10 years ago, attack was, or 15 years ago, wasn't neat enough. You needed 1-3-3-1s to keep people nice and square, keep them going north, maintain continuity, don't lose the ball quickly, maintain phases. And now it's gone back to how it kind of was, but with shape. So you can play fast and loose, and as you play fast and loose, you can tighten up and play the shape again. But no one's shy to, like, literally, you're running towards me like basketball, lob it over you to the next dude. And people got bloody good at it. It's creating anarchy. And defense is been surprised by, guys who land, and as they're going to clear, he actually pops it to the clearer, who pops it to the next guy. And that ball is just on the fly the whole time. So I think super dynamic, super quick offloading, super quick ball off the deck. Ball's been cleared, lifted by whoever's there to lift. It's crazy. It's crazy.
No, it's crazy to see how the game. I even saw last year with La Rochelle where they started to play a more like keeping the ball alive type of game, and in France it's known as le jeu toulousain, so it's the way Toulouse plays, keeping the jeu debout, keeping the ball alive, and it does create a lot of problems on defense. I would expect that, seeing that attack is leveling up at the moment, you do actually see more precise kick passes at the moment. Players are scanning slightly bit better at the moment, where before they were very robotical, but it has evolved. But I actually got this question. You're talking about this, the offloads and behind the back passes, and we see Toulouse is very good with that. How do you defend it? How do you defend a team that manages to get their arms free, get that pass off the contact, and get those little offloads, because I think that's a tricky one. You can have all the systems in place, but there's a lot of things that come into play.
Well, it is tricky. So going on for your point is, I'll say how to stop it just in the next part. But the first part is what you're saying is that the roboticalness has gone. So training, scenario planning, people used to say, play many moves in these scenarios when they exist, but no one could really execute it. Like you say now, if you look at England, they're scoring kick passes from a failed scrum play into Urbano looks up. Sorry, no, what's his name? The guy who played 12 up. It's just his name.
I don't know. Watch that game.
Okay, but
let's call him Mr.
X. Yeah, sorry, just baby brain. But they execute a scrum move that breaks down. He catches ball, just looks up and just puts kick pass in, and Manny catches it and scores, because they're playing the impromptu kick pass, the little chip over the top from a mid ruck, etc., all the time now. So all options are live, all options are realistic, and the executability is there. How do you shut it down? I would say initially, first of all, is defense has got to be 10 times more proactive than it's ever been in terms of understanding pictures, setting up ambushes, which we'll talk about now. While plays unfolding, the ability to see 2-3 steps ahead like a chess master is massive. You can't no longer just look in front. You're looking at the playmaker's body language, how deep he is off his pod. Has he promoted himself and got how many numbers he's got outside? All these things, it's 2-3 steps ahead in your vision in real time. What am I seeing? What do I anticipate to happen? And the anticipation for the defense has to go through the roof. That's number one, from a systems, shape, containment point of view. And from a physicality point of view, you really got to go back to stifling them from offloads, as in hitting on the ball, choke tackles, not allowing guys to get free. Because even when they hit now, if you notice how they fight and rip, and then it's a little pop pass, guys are popping with their fingers. Like in the old days, you say, if you offload, you have to break through contact. You have to be able to see the guy's face, take a Kodak moment, so take a photograph of his face, and then offload, with him in sight. Now that's all gone to pot. I wallop you, and you can just get a finger through. It's totally acceptable to flick it with your fingers. Doesn't even go to hand, bounces, and he flicks it again. Yeah. So how do you contain that? You got to make sure when you hit, he stays hit, and you stay in the strangle, and there's no getting your little fingers through, because that one little pop to him just ends up in 5 more pops, and you're in behind, like you say, Toulouse. And I mean, the French teams that play up the short corridors, picking out the ruck, playing off 9, little guy off the shoulder, next guy off the shoulder, leg inside ball, land, pop again. That's already a nightmare. But now they can do it in the wider channels with wide shape too. So it's either trench warfare or proper shape across the park. So you're going against width, then you're going against tight channel warfare. So attack is pretty much, they're doing both in one game, just like that. Where stylistically before, I'd be a 1-3-3-1 or 2-4-2 or hybrid thereof, and I wouldn't be a trench warfare team. Whereas now I go for trench warfare to my wide shape and back again, all in the same game. So defense's adaptability to be on it's gotten to another level, and setting your own traps and things like that, which we can talk about. If you're not setting traps for the attack, they're setting traps for you. It's easy as that.
Yeah. No, listen, there's so many things I want to pick on there, but I think you just mentioned something there. Now you have to apply choke tackles. You need to try and stop the offloads. And with a bit of retrospect, now if you think about it, actually, doesn't that play also a part where we are seeing these head-to-head contacts? And that's kind of like they want us to play a more attacking style of rugby. So shouldn't we just accept in a way that is an indirect consequence of, because now for defense to stop the offloads, to stop the attacking threats. Now they have to resort to the choke tackles. They have to actually attack the ball, and not you've got to defend the ball and not defend the player. So what's your point of view of that?
Yeah, well, the point of view is I think you've suddenly seen the volume of upstairs tackles going back up, like you say, because the tackle jackal thing, let's be honest, it's dangerous for many reasons. I load tackle. As you load tackling, hands are free the whole time, better than ever. And not just two guys who could do it. It's like the whole tight five can even do it. You look at the Springboks. Before they even land, it's Sneeman or whoever it is on the ball, from Damien to Mbonambi to everyone. You give them a second, they're going to offload. So tackling the legs is no point. And if they land without offloading, by the time the jackal comes in, the attacking breakdown so aggressive, so well trained these days. The guys are so technical, they just take you away. Boom, ball's up again. So for sure, you have to hit on the ball, break the ball carrier's posture, because it's all about if the ball carrier can impose his posture on you, he decides where to go and he can land and place and offload as he pleases. So you have to hit on the ball. But you have to develop that as a skill. Your fly check to the limit, level change and hit. I mean, we've been using the word, I'm hearing it all over the place. Level change. We're talking about level change in 2004 because obviously it comes from wrestling. I've been wrestling my whole life. To level change, so I can see you eyeball to eyeball, level change and hit you through the ball. That type of techers, you have to be working at the high level. You can hit, like I remember with Worcester at one stage, we had 4,500 tackles. I think like 4,300 were upstairs. We made 700 dominant hits that year, which was the most in the league with, I think, 1 yellow card. So you can train your fundamentals to be high level, and you're going to have to go back to that if you want to stop this basketball piggy in the middle. I've been calling it piggy in the middle because I go basketball to him, catches basketball straight back to me, like a 1-2-1-2, and they're getting away with it because guys are coming in and attacking the hip. So you 1-2s over him to the next guy, and if they do another 1-2, they're down the track. It's a try. So for sure, you've got to block the ball.
Yeah, it actually makes me think because, we've been focusing a lot on, situational awareness when it comes to attack. But it's got me thinking in the actual collision, because if we look at all the red cards, even when players are now making the effort to drop their height, I think firstly, how do you help a 2-meter plus player drop his height even more? And I'm not here to discuss the credibility of the red cards we saw in the November test match, because that is a problem, because taller guys, they have to make the effort, but sometimes it might not be enough. But I think because, as you mentioned, players are now spinning around in the tackle. They are fending guys off. They're constantly changing direction. They are finding that point of weakness in defense. So actually now we actually need to improve the situational awareness of the tackler so that he can be more precise in the collision, so that it doesn't just go to that red brain, I just want to smoke the guy. But how can we help players to improve that intelligence in that situation? Because it is a pity. I have a different point of view. I do believe priority needs to be the player and safety, the safety of the players. That's very important. But I always use this as an example. A boxer goes into the ring. He knows he's going to get hit in the head. MMA fight, he goes into the cage. He can lose his life. So I do believe we all know what the risks are. And we want to make sure that the game, it remains relevant, and the game that we all love. It's about the collisions, about the content. It's about the set piece. I mean, we have just had a great discussion yesterday on the rugby pod, and they spoke about World Rugby that wants to depower the scrum.
Yeah,
so I said, what are you guys thinking? Depower the scrum? That means the Springboks will have more energy to run at you and to smash you on the fence.
So by upside and downside, isn't it?
So by depowering the scrum, you're giving more energy to forward. So, but yeah, I wanted to hear about you. What do you think? How can we help players to improve their situational awareness in that collision, which happens like that in a split second?
Well, I think situational awareness comes in 2 points, like off the ball situational awareness. What is the shape in front of me? What's my role in shutting it down? Can I get there quicker and initiate on them before they initiate on me? And it's not just about taking time and space. That's too easy. What does taking time and space mean? It's about, I recognize a ball carrier is looking in, say, play me. Where am I in relation, spacing alignment to him? If I'm an outside shoulder, and as he catches, I arrive quicker than he can catch the ball, and I can have the time to smoke him because I've anticipated, that's better, right? If the guy carries on the out and I fly to the check zone, and as he dips, I can catch him on the hip without hitting head contact, or very tall guys they barrel over the top and they catch the hips and then they drive him back.
Yeah.
I'll do that because I've recognized the shape. I know exactly who I'm taking, and I get there quicker than they can execute. That's one thing. there is a sensibility on the ball in the tackle. When I want to break your posture, I have to be able to break your posture, win the posture battle, and then stay on you like sticky tape, like glue, stick on you like a fly on shit. So, you run at me, you duck over, I hit you, I break your posture, and now you want to spin out. That sensibility to cut the corner, get my hips in tight, get a tricep, and as you want to spin out, feel that you want to spin out again, get your shorts, and keep my head tight and tucked in so that like I'm always steering you. That is an art form that very few guys can do. Because the first up shots have improved, for example, with certain teams around the world. A lot of functional explosive conditioning people are copycatting. You look at how guys are hitting shields. They're hitting them probably with the best technique I've seen in a long time globally at all levels. But you've got to be careful of how you train this stuff, because if I watch guys hit tie pads or boxers hit pads, right? There's some amateurs that hit pads very beautifully now, like compared to 10 years ago. And it's like, bah, 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 bah. But you see them sparring and they're still jarring away when the real fight comes. So, but be careful of being shield champions. And then when we come into the dynamic contact where there's a knobbly elbow and the guy's spinning out, he's trying to get his hand free and you have to tuck under. And when you drive the tricep, you're getting under him and driving him in a way that as you feel his posture breaks and he moves the other way, you're cutting that corner. That is like a whole different art form. And then you're still getting him to the ground in a way that you're landing on top, you're taking space, you're taking guys away, all your hands are on the ball. So the pictures and the sensation is around the picture before the time off the ball, in my shape, knowing my role. But when I'm in there, do I have the sensibility and the tools to cut him off from an offload and then a pop off the floor and then quick ball off the ground and so on and so forth? Because you need 3-4 layers of tools to stop offload, momentum, continuity, and speed of ball. It can't be hit, fall, and I compete, it clears me out. That was my only option. Once I get hold of him, it's got to feel like a street fight where from the time I touch him to the time he hits the ground, it's like I put poison in his veins. And it just feels like I can't spin, I can't go this way, I'm going to have to turn and go down. And when he turns and goes down, I'm lighting up, I'm pushing back even quicker. Because when a ball carrier's posture is broken, he wants to place. And when he wants to place is when you light up, you don't let go of him, because then he can do what he wants. And so that sensibility is important.
I like that sensibility in the contact situation. That's very important. I just want to give us maybe just a bit of structure, because we're starting to use language, that maybe our novice rugby player and novice coach might not understand. And before, I just wanted you maybe to elaborate. You used the words earlier, the trench war. If you can maybe the trench warfare, can you elaborate a bit more about that?
Yeah, for South African guys and then for the rest of everyone else, we used to have Copper Stump. Copper Stump is like you give one guy the ball and he tries to barrage through, and trench warfare is the old days how they taught us, which is coming back, is as you're going to contact, you're being walloped, I rip the ball off you and I rip and support, and I'm through the gap, and then you follow me in, and then I rip you, you rip off me again, and we stay in that spiral of on top of each other in the short corridors. In other words, right against the ruck, I pop to you, I follow you in, I get the ball off you, I pop it to the next guy, and we just like in the war zone. That was old school rugby. Copper Stump means headbutting, head fight. And so that's trench warfare. And that's typical French and typical old South African back in the day. I think the French do that with a lot of panache. So that's what trench warfare is. And obviously just general attacking shape is, like I said, shape across the pot in your channels, attacking north. And north just means forward.
Yeah. Omar, I've been fortunate enough over the years. I do believe I've perfected a framework which I call the Scrum Dominator mindset, which has allowed me to really help players and coaches and teams, take their scrummaging to another level, but not just on the technical side, the mental, the tactical, the strategical, everything that we need in order to dominate. We saw the benefit of having a weaponized scrum, with the Springboks a few weekends ago. It was unbelievable, but we do believe there's a higher, how can I say, there's another factor that comes into place. It's the mindset, it's the alignment, it's the attitude, it's that cohesion. So obviously now that I have this time off, I'm using this to develop my systems as a forwards coach, and potentially one day as a manager, how I would coach a team using that exact same framework, which applies to the scrum, but can be used into other areas of the game. And it fascinates me. And seeing that I have a defensive specialist here today, I'm like, I need to ask the right questions. And I took some time today, did my due diligence, and didn't just go the AI route. What questions can I ask? I was like, what would I like to know? So I'm a scrum coach that is in the process of transitioning into a forwards coach and potentially one day a manager. If I have to learn defense, and this is the trick, and I had a great chat with with Jerry as well in a November Test match series and talking about the defensive systems of the box. But I'm a young coach, or I'm a coach, has zero expertise when it comes to defense. What are the basic fundamentals that I need to focus on if I want to learn more about defense and about how to coach it? What are the maybe 3 to 5 key fundamentals that we should be focusing on?
Well, you first of all, you always got to understand the style of defense you want to coach. Now, there's going to be a fundamental that never changed, kind of like you were talking about just your scrum dominator stuff, where the reason the box can weaponize their scrum is because they train with functional explosive physicality for their scrum. And so in rugby, unfortunately, some people train the collisions, whether it's maul, scrums, tackle, etc., the right way, the functional explosive right way with the right amount of power, endurance, triple collision efforts, etc. And they will always dominate. And there's guys who train it just below that, and just it's not enough to cope for 80 minutes. Okay, but the first thing I would say is, any defense coach, decide what defensive style you're going to choose, whether it's a blitz, super blitz, medium press and check, soft drift, whatever you're going to choose, which I'm going to tell you which I prefer in a minute and why. But you got to choose a defensive style that you feel you gravitated towards, and it's going to suit your personality, and you're going to be able to manage. That's the first thing. Okay. Obviously, stretch yourself. Don't just go for drift, because everyone defaults to drift because it's easiest, because it's low risk, but it's high pain because you defend for too long. There's a lot of complicated factors. Push, go. I got you inside. No, I don't have you inside. Oh, there's still runners on the outside. It's confusing. So you've got to be careful about what you choose. But choose your system. Second of all, there's a framework for defense, and it starts on the a triangle, and at the bottom, just like scrum stuff, you could apply this to scrums, is physicality. And I harp on about this. Physicality means, or you call it the physical, is functional, explosive, defensive conditioning, okay? Which includes the running loads, anaerobic, aerobic running loads, triple collision efforts, power endurance, reload, reform, speed off the ground. All those things are under physical. So physical is not just be physical. It's how I teach you to move, like excel, decel smoothly, fold around a corner smoothly, don't be clunky, get off smoothly, dominate, push, pull. All that stuff is part of physical, because I've got to make you a functional athlete. Like with your scrum stuff, which you're unbelievable with your scrum stuff, bro, is like how smooth you are and engage, how low you can go, how you can maintain that scrum core, the neck stability and strength. Without that, you've got no scrum. Same thing with defense. If I move clunky, I'm not going to bang anybody. I mean, if I can't bang time and time again, so if I can't bang, bounce, get up, counteract, or get up straight away, make another tackle again straight away, and create a dogfight, I'm nowhere. So if you don't have the physical expertise to understand what builds an intensive defensive human being, you've got nothing. Because the biggest thing is, as an individual defender, I've got to be a man island. I've got to be a dog fighter. I've got to be a killer. And that's a process. Like making a good cake. So physical first. And a defense coach has got to know how to coordinate these things with the conditioning coach. So when you come into a preseason, say, this is my style of defense. I like, hitting upstairs, triple collision efforts, line speed, excels, decels at absolute pace. I'm probably going to need 5-6 high intensity efforts at a time. This is how I see it playing out. How can we allocate time, and how can we mix it with your training regime, your global periodization? And periodization just means what to do, when to do it, how hard to do it. How can we collaborate so it works for the entire conditioning regime? So any defensive coach, you've got to know that stuff. You cannot just go do mindless drills, etc. Because if you don't start with physicality and you start with system, you're not going to have match demands. The moment you miss the window for match demands, you're finished. Okay, so I've said to you before, in my career, I've been a fixer-upper by default, not design, from helping the Springbok Sevens, being with Racing, Stormers, Sharks, Staffonse, etc., Worcester Warriors about to be relegated. Every time we came to a fixer-upper job and a team that was tanking, the same thing remained. In a 20-odd year sample set is the best teams who are flying have always got the ability to win the gain line, they understand how they win games, and they underpin it with the periodization that supports how they win. So however you decide to win, you underpin it with match demands and great periodization, and then you have total alignment. Those are the 3 big factors. So teams who struggle don't know how they win and can't maintain it because they don't have the match demands for it. So if you understand how to create match demands in the style of defense you like, you're already halfway through the battle. The second thing is your technical ability. Now, people talk about technical, tactical too quick. Tactical means I make adjustments to what we do to win games because I'm already so on top of my physical. I'm so on top of my technical insurmountable. But off the ball, reload, reform, scan, early nomination, point and talk, like I'm just unassailable. And then I say, hey, my line-out system, my scrum system, I can create an ambush in a situation because fundamentally we're so bloody good. You can't talk about tactics, which is actually a finite change that can actually give you an edge to win a game. You can't go tactical before your pyramid's sorted out. It's like, Maslow's hierarchy of needs for human needs. The first thing is safety and security, and then self-actualization's at the top. You can't talk about self-actualization being one with the universe first if you're starving and hungry and don't have a place to live. And that's the same thing. Defense, where it lives, is in physicality, functional explosive conditioning. And then you can be technical, and then you can be tactical.
Man, there's so much to chew on there. Wow. I don't think I've ever heard anybody explain defense like that and the fundamentals. And I definitely agree with you, especially when it comes to the physicality part. If I take it back to our days at the Bulls, the way we trained. We actually trained collisions in a controlled environment. We'd have those mats, but you would have the ball carrier run full on and you had to execute that technique with precision. Otherwise, you would get hurt. So, and you needed to be effective. But what I enjoyed, I think, obviously as a coach, and I was fortunate enough to be part of La Rochelle's coaching team for 4 years. It was brilliant then, working with guys like Rog and Roman Carmignani. And I was fortunate in the past also to work with Jacques Nienaber as well and John McFarlane. And I hope one day we can work together, man. That would be awesome. But I think it will create a nuclear explosion with our energy levels. I don't think so we'll have to take turns. We're going to have to tone it down. I don't think it will.
Well, I think we'll complement each other in the physicality, but I agree. We're going to have shifts. Who goes high, who goes low.
Yeah, we're going to have that. It won't even be a whole good cop, bad cop. It's going to be a low energy cop, high energy cop. But,
I love it.
Man. But Omar, you mentioned it, and this is where I think it's great that, for the people that are listening, it's not just coaches listening to this podcast. It's people that love the game. And people that is passionate about the game and want to learn about it. And you mentioned there, and I would like you to list them again because I think I might have missed the one or two. You spoke about the defensive systems. You get the blitz defense, you get the super blitz, and then there's also the defense where you're controlling a bit. You called it drift defense, if I'm not mistaken. If you could just list them again.
Yeah, sure. So if you go with the traditional first, is a soft drift. The soft drift is you go up, you let everything unfold, and when they do what they do, then you hit. Okay. And the problem with that is you're always reactive. You're relying on them to do what they do, and you contain for long periods of time. The more aggressive version, which is just one step up, is the press and check. So I go 3 steps press, check, also unfold, but a bit squarer, not as sideways. And I'm a little bit more proactive, but I let them do what they do. Blitz, for a lot of people, like I've got a lot of clients in different time zones, and I've got probably, I've got 10 or 11 pro coaches from around the world, and I've got a lot of semi-pros and amateurs. And one of the things that comes out straight away is they go to a blitz at times, and they call blitz the first 4 guys and the rest wait and assess. Yeah. That is, for me, that's not even really blitz, but that's what most people think blitz is. The first inside pressure is quite high, as it's fast, and the rest is like, okay, let's see, and then maybe I'll hit. Where when I say out and out super blitz or sonic blitz is fly to the limit of your speed and where they're going to catch the ball as fast as you can to catch them. The outside's coming to the absolute limit of the read at the same time. And if they just make one extra move on a second or third pass, it's hit all the way through. And if they hit on the second or third pass, you've hit, these guys make their move, you reload fast, and it's fly again straight away on both sides. So they can't jack back. And every time they make a pass, someone's in their face, someone's in their face, someone's in their face. That is like sonic blitz. That's the entire team moving on flight at pace with full focus. There's no half-assing it.
Yeah.
And it only works when you do it that fast. So you see the problem with training blitz is people don't really know what an XL 0 to 3, 0 to 5, 0 to 10 at absolute pace are, and you've got to train that. Then decel, retreat, take off again. The reason blitz fails is they don't get the movement part right first. So you don't move as fast as you can. You miss the jump, they get the pass where you go, blitz doesn't work. It's like, how good were you at getting to your max speed and reading every single time? 6 out of 10. Well, that's not fast enough, and it's not focused enough. So that's a sort of ultimate level. And the box use it, and very few teams use it, but the best of the best will use it. England have got faster again, and they're causing teams problems because they're coming up high on the outside very quickly. And it's like, oh, how do I go around? Oh, go back inside and you get clocked.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when we look at the Bok defense, think sometimes it's like we see the loads of space on the outside, and sometimes teams think, oh, there's space outside, but actually it's not there. If you're actually hitting your targets, if you got that line moving together, and like you're saying, you're really accelerating and moving as one. That space is actually what I always refer to example. We often see in the scrum, you got a tight head boring in or trying to come in. I said he's chasing fake space. He's chasing space that doesn't exist. So, and I think that's the same in defense, and that's so great. And I always tell coaches as well, you got to choose your system, and that is brilliant. Blitz, super blitz, soft drift, press and check. And I do feel, and I agree with you, a lot of coaches, and when you have a defensive system where it's not clear, I've seen that firsthand over the last 4 years at times when we struggled a bit with our D at La Rochelle. The issue came when players were not sure of their assignments and when to call what defense. Because when you're oxy, when you're depleted on energy, you've just had ball in play for 3.5 to 4 minutes, you're not registering anymore, you're just kind of like an autopilot, then it's tough to make those calls. So maybe if they are how can you make a system work where you got like your blitz, but like, then you're like, when you're in trouble, you kind of like wait, you kind of like hang. How can you manage that as a coach?
Listen, that's the hardest situation. It's unreal that you've said in a long sequence where you've gone, like hypothetically, you've gone transition attack, you lose the ball. They get the ball, you transition defend. They put a chip over, you scramble, you boot it straight back, and it's a long, long sequence. I agree with you. That is a very gray area of how to get back in control. It is. And sometimes you've got to just say, like you just go steady, we're dying here, just steady for a second till we can catch our breath. So they are called steady, whatever you want to call it. Once you've called steady, within 2-3 phases that it's slowed down, as in not the ball's necessarily as slow as you'd like, but the pattern of play, like kick back, kick return, line break, stop, and it's just my ball, your ball, my ball, your ball. Once they've had the ball 2-3 phases again, you've just recovered, then you catch your breath and you attempt to go as quick as you can again. And what you base it on is, once you settle yourself down, you base on the flight of the ball, the speed of the ball, and being situationally trained like that. So in training, when you're absolutely fatigued out your butt and you get blind broke because you go on your own and everyone else do moch, or too tired, the next time we say, listen, that sequence is 4.5 minutes. When you felt your legs couldn't move, we need to get that call in. Okay. But you don't want to do that too much, because if you encourage that early on in sequences, then no one will get off the line. And that becomes a problem.
Omar, I've always had a great relationship with my defensive coaches. And back in the day in the Bulls, John McFarland, we used to call him Mick Shoosh. And, he was an absolute legend, and it was out of funny, this Englishman, and he was always blood red in the face when things got heated.
I know John, he's a good boy.
But he helped me a lot, the way he coached it. But we used to live for his defensive videos, that highlight reels, and he used to play Thunderstruck, AC/DC, and actually funny, as players, we would actually play just to be on that highlight reel. We wanted to see that big hit. That's what we love, and we had that. We had the Hitman, we had the Bone Collector, we had these mini awards. So I think this follows up to my other question. Like, how do you stimulate players? How do you, I don't like using some coaches, they believe they need to psych players up and get them into the mental state that they need to be. I believe if you as a coach have to do it, that means fundamentally you have been doing something seriously wrong. Because I don't believe it's the coach's responsibility to get players to flip that switch. So my question is, in your coaching style, in your coaching philosophies, how do you get players to be in the right frame of mind, in that right mindset? You mentioned their physicality, so that they can actually ignite that flame and actually blow the attack up.
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's a difficult question to answer simply. I think what is on the coach's shoulders and responsibilities, not to make you flip the switch, it's to make you feel like you want to flip the switch when the time comes. And to give you enough tools to help you if you feel like you're not feeling it. So I agree with you, but it's like anything, it's a symbiotic relationship. So when you set the scene as a defense coach, like you said with John, He makes it exciting. He makes it personal. He makes you feel like you want to be part of something fucking unbelievable where you've got pride and your blood, sweat, and tears is undeniable. Your bravery and your heart shows every single week. That is your first goal. It's like anything. I sell you the dream first. It's like, can you imagine people come to the stadium? There's 80,000 people in the stadium, and they look at you and they say, "You're the bravest, meanest, most heartfelt human beings on earth because you put your bodies on the line. You put it all out there, and you're smashing the opposition. You're fighting for the pride of the team." Can you imagine people just chanting your name on the basis that you're protecting our honor? Like you feel, I want to be brought into that. Good, great, that's the dream. But this is what it looks like. Triple collision efforts, reload and reform when you're tired, knowing your role ridiculously, doing your homework that you can tell that Finn Russell from a left to right pass is very heavy on his left elbow and his left foot leans too far back. So he doesn't have a lot of power on that pass. And you've done so much homework that your best inside pressure shot is when he goes from left to right. And the wings, having read that pass because they've watched the sequence so many times, when he goes from right to left, he comes back either with a straight kick pass or if he plays out the back, he plays heady with that pass. That's you do that because how the scene was set to be a warrior, to do whatever it takes to be stuck into people's faces. You believe that dream, but then the homework and the ability to apply yourself has to be there from the guidance of the coach, but also through the scene that was set that you feel like you want to be part of that dream. Obviously, it's still a coach's responsibility to help you through the highs and lows because you know better than anyone. You can have 5 great games in a row and be knackered and think, shit, I don't know how I'm going to go on. Or a brutal game where you've made 17 tackles, God knows how many clear-outs and how many scrums. And you're like, how do I actually regulate myself in this game when I feel like I can't go on? Well, there's ways to do that. There's game scripts, building bottom line performance criteria, building your temperature going into sessions. And building your temperature means I know what the session's about. I know what my contributions can be about. I know what the outcomes we're looking for. And moment to moment within the training, I'm making meaningful contributions. There's all these little frameworks you could put into play that make players be able to plug into the system, as in the defensive system and the other people around them during training or during a game, and they can self-regulate. And you come off the pitch and say, how was it out there? And they go, well, look, off the ball, I wasn't moving as fast as I could, but on the ball, I was actually hitting quite well. I remember the goal of the training, which was speed and execution, but speed-wise, I wasn't there. So that you're not always telling them what to do. They can plug back into you, so you're not babysitting them. But you did set the premise, you gave the tools, and hopefully that buy-in's there, that they massage and then this reflect back with you. I think that's the win-win if you can get there. Obviously, with Espoir players or younger players, you're going to have to pace set that a bit more. Yeah. You can't just delegate that. And obviously, as you get more experience, like where you were, you're being supportive and delegated, and then you're spitballing that. I don't know if that answers that. Because it's quite a complex question.
No, it is. It is a complex question, and I get asked a lot in the community, and coaches have asked me this. Gee, how do we develop aggression? And that's not the easy one to answer. We touched based on the previous pod, and I always tell you first got to ask why a player is not aggressive. There's a reason for it. Either he's scared shitless. All right, he doesn't love contact, so that potentially means that player needs to make a decision, maybe find another sport, to be honest. All right, you can't be in rugby and you are not wanting to be physical and really apply pressure on your opponent and try and dominate your collision. Then I always say the other reason potentially is, reason why a player potentially isn't aggressive is because he's maybe not fit, right? He's not fit enough. So he needs to make sure that that player is on point, that is conditioned physically, but also mentally. So sometimes we find that players might not be aggressive because conditioning is lacking, or sometimes as well, they're not clear on what they want to do and what they want to achieve. They're just going through the motions. And I say to the coaches, the first thing they need to do, they need to get a clear understanding on why a player is not aggressive before they even start on focusing on how they can get them to be aggressive. And I do believe, and you just touch based on that, it's but you need to guide the player. You need to ask him what he wants, what's the reward that he wants, and you need to kind of help him to get over those mental barriers, because sometimes it could be due to lack of confidence. In my belief, if you want to improve confidence, you need to repeat. And the more you're repeating something and it becomes natural, and creating those situational training sessions where players can be exposed and kind of be uncomfortable, That I do believe is a way you can start to stimulate that aggression and find those triggers and those levers to help the player. So I'm going to throw you this question again because last time you shied away from it, but if you have to put on your coach's hat on, you're sitting with a few key players in your team. Um, they're lacking aggression. They got great tackle technique, but you are playing them because they got great attacking abilities. He might be your lineout caller in the team, is important for the lineouts, or he's the captain, but defensively, he's lacking aggression. When he's happy to offload, but he is contact shy. So, how would you approach that as a coach when you're having one or two players? They are bringing lots to the team, but defensively, they're actually putting you into a tough spot.
Again, an unbelievable question. I think it also depends. Are these players never putting in big shots ever and you want to get them to another level? Or do they sometimes already show glimmers of doing big shots? Is it the first one?
So let's simplify. Let's maybe start at the bottom. You got players that are often having negative shots on the collision. So, they're not even winning the angler. And the goal for me as a coach, I just want a neutral battle. I just want a neutral collision. That's what I'm chasing for, because at least like that allows my big hitters to get into position and be not just having that ripple effect where we are constantly losing the gain line.
Yeah. So what I would say is, number one is I watch all the tackles from every situation. So whether it's lineouts, scrums, etc., general play, transition defense, counter, etc., and you get a feeling for where they're not maximizing in the system. So for example, maybe their anticipation's low. So they're always looking in for ages, then they look out, then they move. You're just like, all right, is it around off the ball anticipation to win the flight so they make a better shot going in with momentum? Or do they do that, and then when it comes to the actual shot, their body position, their crouch, they're ready to hit, their tightness of their capsule, their body position to hit through and then stay in the fight? Is that missing? Is the sensibility missing? I'll get a picture for it, right? And then I'll sit with them and I'll show them the clips and I'll say, where here do you think you're missing something that's going to give you an edge to put that guy behind the gain line instead of absorbing him? And they'll say, oh, maybe I could have got up quicker. So I'll go, give me a real practical example. Well, he didn't see me coming, but I could have finished him off, but I actually waited, then let him catch the ball, look at me and run at me. Okay, so what can you do differently off the ball next time? Better anticipation and excel into him and be happy to ambush him. Keep thinking, if I can ambush him and take the space quicker than he can look at me, then I've won. Okay, so that could give you an easy neutral hit straight away. So I say, if you do that, do you think you could execute there? Cool. Then let's talk about on the ball stuff. Do you realize that your arms are super wide? Let's just talk technically, be a bit neater. I don't like the boxer stance thing, which we'll talk about another day because it makes you very rigid. But when you come into contact, when you change your level and you're about to hit, how do you feel? Do you have confidence in your collision worthiness, the ability to have that body hardness to hit through and follow through? No, I kind of don't. Why? I usually get a stinger. Okay, let's look at where your shoulder is in relation to your chest and your traps when they activate it, and make those small adjustments, because you got to be realistic. You got to make the adjustments that they feel are realistic. So there will always be anticipatory ones, role related, speed of the line ones are going to make sense, going to make them make better shots. That's why a guy like Chesil, who's smaller and he's brave though, he's small. His anticipation that every time you look up, he's just hitting you, which makes him look braver and more powerful because his anticipation is crazy. Then his on the ball skills are pretty good. So these players, you look at on the ball and off the ball and you say, incrementally off the ball, how fast can we get there to terrorize? Are you doing your maximal there? On the ball, are you using your tools maximally for the first impact? And then are you following up? And then suddenly he looks braver if he makes these adjustments. You have to be, though, willing to execute and follow through on the homework you give him with him or her. Do you understand? So if you talk about XL, decel, anticipate and hit, you're going to be doing those drills. If you talk about, hitting on the sweet spot with the right tightness of the shoulder capsule and the trap and the pec as a combination, so you've got some sturdiness there, and then work on the grips and the sensibility, those drills have to be done weekly until that breakthrough occurs. Because the moment the breakthrough occurs, that's your currency, because they're going to go, wow, that's my currency. I'm going to do this again and again. Pierce O'Connor from Bristol Bears, when we first worked together, his shoulder had been dislocated many times. And after his last surgeries, we said we want to make him more robust. We did so much of this timing and contact, building from 40 to 80. So safe, controlled, bang, that eventually he hit cock in a single. You can find this clip. We played Bath. It was running full tilt, and Pierce ran at him from a 20-meter run-up cock in a single head. And he hit him and he put him down. And that was for him such a huge breakthrough from absorbing. It's like you're quick, so use your anticipation. You're big, you use your body, and then you follow through the plan. And I know that's a long way to explain it, but obviously you first, prior to all this, you've got to have done your preseason and created the dog fighter initially. But if you still need to top up because he's not getting it, or you're coming into a new team mid-season, you work on that basis, full analysis of his systematic ability, his movement, and then obviously his on the ball ability. And then you have to follow that plan through. And I know that sounds obvious, but people don't. They'll do those fundamentals once or twice and they stop.
No, man, that's brilliant. I think that's important. And what you're sharing is defensive gold there, man. I'm really enjoying this. And, it got me thinking, even in my career, I was known for my big hits. I loved smashing guys. I love smashing. I remember my debut for Toulouse. I was so fired up. And the poor Gerrit Mostert, he was playing for Stade Francais back in the day. And I just ran over him and I smashed him. And it makes sense. I think that's also important. And you're the specialist. If you want to put those big hits in, it's all about timing. It's about reading the tech and getting yourself into the right position. Yes, technique plays in it. But now, let's say, for example, a player like myself back in the day, I was known for my big hits, but then somewhere along the line, I lost my mojo. I'm no longer putting in those big hits. It's neutral. I'm as a player, I'm not feeling confident anymore for some reason. And we've all been there at some stage where you can have those big runs. It's similar to, knocking a ball 3 times in a row in a game. Like after that, do you want to actually touch the ball? Because you're scared you might make that the same mistake. And there were times in my career as well where, and I'm honest to admit it, because there were times I would be contact shy, whether that was linked to coming back from an injury or just going through a dip. How would you guide a player that is known for being a big hitter on defense, putting in those massive hits? Your team is counting, but you've noticed now 2 games, 3 games, you're not seeing those big hits. It's regressed to neutral hits and actually losing a lot of meters on the gain line. How would you approach that player? How would you guide him?
Again, a good question and a difficult question.
I did my homework in this podcast.
Yes, you did your homework. Trying to nail me, yeah. I'm trying to pass the interview before you become head coach and you bring me on board. I think it's really important to have the interpersonal relationship, but have the respect of the player from a technical standpoint, so you can have these chats, right? So hopefully you built that basis all the way through. The first thing you've got to identify is, where is he right now? And you have to have that chat. Unfortunately, you can't just talk at anybody. It's like if I was coaching you, I'd say, Guthrie, what's going on for you right now? And you'd say, I'm just not feeling myself. And you'd have to have that proper discussion around that. And everyone talks about the home question, like, how's it going at home? That is important. If you're about to go through a divorce and you hadn't told anyone, like, oh, I'm actually like living separately from my wife and I'm devastated. That's quite important to know. So that, that aside, let's say that aside, you say, look, why aren't you feeling it? What's going on for you right now? It's just like, I just feel like I'm coasting through games and I don't know what's important anymore. Okay, why? Because the thing is, everything we've discussed, like Rusty's thing that he taught me is, and I didn't realize I did do this also naturally, is you've got to make things personal. It's always personal, right? Someone runs over you, it's going to be on the internet for a week of the highlight how they ran over you. So you've got to make it personal and say, I do everything in my power. When I'm in front of you, I don't lose against you one-on-one. And if you win a mini battle, you bet your butt I'll be back to dominate you win the next battle. So number one is, what's important to you right now? What's going on for you? You have to ascertain that. And then if he says, I actually don't know, I've just lost my mojo, then you say, okay, look, what we're going to do is going to go back to best practice. Okay. And I take them through what I call like their game script is, what is your primary job as a prop on defense? Okay, I stop momentum and continuity and offloads in those tight channels. How do I do that? Early nomination, point and talk, win the flight to the short corridors and dominate there. Okay, cool. Do you feel you've had the vibe and the connection around that? No, I haven't. So I talk about vibe, I mean valuable information while being energetic. I notice you're not vibing at all. So I don't see any valuable information. Fold 2, snare, hold, watch the pick and go. I've got him. I don't see you vibing. So let's go back to game script fundamentals. Your job is stop momentum and offloads. How do you do that? By winning the jump to the flight of the ball when you're off the ball. And when you're on the ball, the tackle text that you could use is, A, if you jam him, you hit like this. B, if he ducks through, you catch him like that, and so on. If he pick and goes, you hit him like this. I want you going back to your game script fundamentals. What is my role on and off the ball? What are the tackle texts I have to execute and do well? and how can I vibe and connect valuable information while being energetic and add value just moment to moment. Can we go back to doing that? That's where I'd go. Once obviously I'd understood where he's at. And if it's just a general lack of, I don't know, I'm just not feeling it. It's like, look, we still need you. Okay, maybe you've discussed off time with the head coach or whatever, and he's back and he's not fatigued from playing, really, he's just not feeling it. I'd say, let's go back to fundamentals in that. Then I'd set a personal target. I'd say, you want to play for England in the next few weeks. It's not going to look good that you're not on point. What's important to you right now? What's important to me right now is making England, but I'm just not feeling it. Well, if you're not feeling it, you're not going to play for England. So let's set the target from a mental standpoint to make it personal and get you to that emotional level you need to be at. So that's sort of the combination that I would use. But going back to key process is the first thing you have to do. There's no other way around it.
No, it's brilliant. It got me thinking, because I did a community call on my school platform in Coach G Level Up, and and actually I'm going to be releasing that episode this week, short form. It's talking about taking out the trash. And I've been known through they always used to make fun of me. I don't know what's the English word, but in Afrikaans it's a concertina. So there's that musical thing that blows up, it shrinks, blows up. That's been me as a player. I pick up weight, I lose it. And even as a coach, I pick up weight, I lose it. And when I mentor players, yes, initially it starts out about helping them to level up in the scrum. But then I look at everything else. At the end of the day, a player wants to turn his vision into reality. He wants to achieve his goals. And the scrum is not the only pathway towards that. You need to level up on defense. And we actually had this discussion with the player. He said to me, I need to improve my defense. Okay, great. How are you going to do it? I don't know, coach. I said, let's break it down. Let's focus. Where are you struggling? Is it confidence-wise? Is it technical? Is it, tactical? Is it that situational awareness? Are you maybe too slow? You're not in the right position? Are you not set first? All those type of things. And when I spoke this week about taking out the trash, I was talking about getting rid of, like, literally all the trash, whether it's mental or what you're putting into your body, the bad habits, all those type of things. And funny story, I don't want to give too much away, but after the Springbok game, so obviously the Springbok game against Ireland, I was set. I had the fromage, I had the charcuterie, I had the foie gras, I had a green T-shirt on. My daughter had a Springbok jersey on. We were watching games, snacking and eating. I was actually watching the game as a fan, not as a coach.
Lovely.
So I was into it. And at some stage, my daughter said, Dad, you're crazy. But anyway, long story short, Monday, jumped up on a scale. All right, so I've been training hard. I've been pushing myself. And I was about 123. I picked up weight, because that's also my own fault, because I made this stupid mistake, and I know what you're talking about, not coaching full-time at the moment. So I've launched 2 courses, the Scrum Dominator Mindset for coaches and a Pro Scrum Analysis course. And I made the mistake of launching it at the same time. What an idiot. So then I feel like I need this reward the whole time, and I reward myself through salt and vinegar Pringles and having the hot chocolate here and there and having some fries with duck fat on it, graisse de canard. Long story short. So then I had a hard reset. You talk about going back to your processes. But the key thing then, the big question I asked myself is, and where this story applies, is that I asked myself, okay, what is the end goal? And it ties back to my vision of the person who I want to be, the person that I want to be, and the person that I'm busy becoming. And I got this phrase, my goal is to be strong, fit, and focused. That's the main thing. That's kind of like my mantra: being strong, fit, and focused. And even in times when I'm struggling, when I'm tired, as well, you are tired, but you need to do this. And I say, hey, you're strong, you fit, you are focused. Switch. And by just going back to basics, getting my nutrition in order, getting my training in order, and getting my sleep, all these different elements. And the end result, I weighed 126.6 on Monday. On Saturday, I weighed 120.8.
Wow.
And I did nothing crazy. And I think what I'm trying to share, it's not about putting the light on me. And it comes down to a player, which we just spoke about, having this chat. There's always a reason why. There is always something holding you back, whether it's emotionally, physically, there might be something personal. I always use this in my frameworks as well. You got to identify the source of what's holding you back.
Yeah.
All right.
Of course. Yeah. I agree with, I love what you said then, even keeping yourself accountable, knowing what you stand for and that's like having the golden thread, because you don't have a true north to go back to if you stand for nothing. If you stand for nothing, what do you go back to? There's no reference. You just keep going backwards. So you have that reference, being strong, fit, and ready to go all the time. So although you regress for a second, you had it to lean on and you propelled forward. I think, unfortunately, part of the things that go with rugby is, I think what Rusty's really good at, and when I coached with him at the Storm, is he knows his players backwards from a performance standpoint, what they're good at, what they're not so good at, what they can improve fundamentally. But he also knows what performance buttons to press when it comes to, like, you call a spade a spade. It's like, I've spoken to you twice now. This is like not the level you're operating at. You know how important you are to the team, and either you want to make the contribution or you don't. What is the story? Sometimes it's also about straight talk and jolting somebody, which is the last resort, really. You don't want to always be jolting someone. I use a framework called SPARK, and it's with a C at the end. And part of SPARK is starting with significance. When you speak to a player and you set the scene with them, the significance is, hey, you're significant. I'm going to listen to you. What do you feel? What's important to you? What do you want to get out of your life? Exactly like you said. But the other part of significance is your significance in us winning games. Your ability to pitch up when you are stopping momentum, you're stopping offloads, you're getting up at the ground, you're creating the width from inside. You're so vital, you're so significant that you are the shape within the defense from inside, and that's everything. If we don't have shape from inside, we've got no shape from outside. And so when we say we need you, we really mean it. So you're significant. I want to hear what you want to contribute and what's important to you. But you're also significant is your performance. If it dips below what we call bottom line performance, we're going to suffer, and we need you there. That also is important for people to understand that you're being relied on, not in a blackmailing way, but in a real significant way. It's like, you don't do what you need to do there. We all suffer, and in reverse, would you like somebody to drop the ball for you where you go like, I'm suffering just because you don't know the significance anymore. So significance is a big thing. And the second part of, I'm not going to give the whole framework, but SPARK, the second part is performance. You let them tell you what performance looks like. And that is, for example, all your roles around ruck defense, line outs, etc. And then their literal role. The literal role is, I maintain shape for the team. You talk about a third team. I'm the traffic warden. I maintain shape, spacing, alignment, and I force errors in the blitz because I marshal the shape and speed of the defense. That is your primary role. Good. That's highly significant. And then below that are the performance parameters, which are your tools in your role to manage that thing. So I think significance, you are significant. I'm going to listen to you, but you're significant in our performance. And you have to remember that. You can't just forget that. You can't go, I'm not feeling it. Well, when you don't feel it, we get broken. So we're just going to be broken because you're not feeling it. No. Okay. So let's try and move on.
No, that's brilliant. I always tell the players, they spend so much time on social media, on TikTok and Instagram Reels. I said, so when you see a reel that you like, what do? You watch it again. You watch it again. If we see something that is funny, you watch it again. And if we look at that Instagram reel recently of
turn the lights out. No, sorry. No.
There was something different, but the one where, for example, with the Springboks, where someone with AI created the song, They Don't Know What We Know. I ended up watching it over and over. I loved it. Just kept on going. It really resonated with me. And I also posted ages ago, like this whole image of Tom Hanks is in pain. And I basically said, this is what backs do when they participate in the morning session.
I've seen that.
So it's hilarious. And you keep on watching it because it's funny. It's hilarious. It got you. So I said, like, okay, how often do you actually want to watch your own scrums, your own ball carries over and over? Because it's that good. Because you want to see, like, how often.
I love that.
Oh, do you watch it once? You're like, ooh, no,
I don't want to watch silence every
swipe. Let's go. I think that's important. But listen, I just want to throw things. I just want to mix things up a little bit.
Sure.
We've been having some really deep chats. Is there a story you can tell us about a player that was extremely tough? A player that was relentless, or a guy that that you can maybe tell us a bit of a nice story where he struggled and he fought his way back. That maybe just inspire a bit of audience.
Sure. That is a difficult.
I did my homework.
Yes.
Okay. I'll let you think on that one. I'll let you think on that. I'll let you think on that one.
There's a lot of players, because there's a lot of good stories of players who lost their mojo, who came back and were defending unbelievably. There were guys like the Dupree brothers who were dangerous but weren't killing guys until we changed things up for them, and they were ruthless. There's Marcel Coetzee finding his mojo again when he came to the Sharks. and he was literally destroying guys. Like there's so many stories. I don't know. I need to think about that for a second.
Now, I'm going to give you a think about. Okay, so we're going to go on a lighter note here. Obviously, as coaches, we need to take care of our mental well-being, our mental state of mind, and I love food. My favorite plate of food, especially in France, is we call it a double entrecôte. All right.
Oh, double
So
entrecôte.
double entrecôte. So that's a ribeye steak, 500 grams, some fries on the side, grilled in duck fat, and deep fried in duck fat. And then I've got the bone marrow on the side.
Oh
and
my
then
God.
and then half cooked foie gras. And then, but I forgot the starter. The starter there is my jambon pâte negra. So, it's those little ham, that cured hams as well, and some foie gras with black pepper. And then to end it off, nice banoffee pie. But,
Oh my goodness, that's
ridiculous.
10,000 calories.
So what would your starter be? What would your mains be? And what would your dessert be?
I'm quite for starter, I'm quite a sucker for either mussels, creamy mussels, or I like the calamari with sweet chili. They make those calamari wings with sweet chili. For main, I love a tomahawk steak. I can eat a 1.2 kilogram tomahawk steak, done rare, and pepper sauce, also with tons of fries. I do love that. That's my sort of like good naughty meal that I like. I mean, it's because it's quite good for you in a strange way too, but tomahawk's got a lot of fat. And for dessert, I like tiramisu. So not too far from you. If it's a cheat meal, I'm feeling like unbelievably stressed and I can't think. I have like triple pepperoni, mushroom and onion with like tons of hot sauce on. I just like drown my sorrows if I'm stressed in the game or post a game. But yeah, those are the two.
Oh man, look, this is another topic. I think people don't realize us as coaches, what we go through, the mental load. We do in France, we use the word le charge mentale, so the amount, the reviews we go through, the prep that we go through. So I would like to know, as a coach, when you were coaching at the highest level as well, and I was also involved in elite performance, how would you manage that load? What would your process be to kind of maintain balance? Because I remember there was that stage where I'm like, you'd sit in front of that computer, you're like dead, or you're waking up that next morning, you are super tired. It's a Sunday morning, but if you need to watch the whole game, then you need to go into detail into a certain area which you're responsible for. And sometimes it get a lot, and especially when teams are not doing well, you take it upon yourself. What can you do better? But I do believe as coaches, it's important for us, and we all have our different hacks. I've got a few things which I will share in a bit, what I did to manage my mental load. But is there anything that you can share with coaches, what you do to manage your mental load, kind of keeping that balance?
Balance is hard. Like what helps me stay focused is I take it really personal in my coaching if my defense doesn't look like I want it to look. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm playing against a team we really need to beat. So I always try and stay high, which is not good. Mm-hmm. And how I help myself to stay a little bit neutralish is when I coach, I wake up 4 o'clock in the morning to disseminate how I feel. Like I'll start off with a nice lemon water, just sit at my desk. I don't touch my phone. My phone's on sleep mode, so it doesn't even light up. And I just sit and I just let myself just release before my first cup of coffee. It's a glass of hot water with lemon in. And I'll just people used to tell me journaling. I used to say, well, journaling, what the hell? Stop talking to me about journaling. I'll punch you. But I literally write down, important week this week, this is how I'm feeling. We maybe lost by 2 points. It's not personal, it's got to get on the whatever. And I just disseminate. And sometimes I'll just close it and I'll think, I could read an excerpt from a book, or I'll just sit and let the thoughts come to me, and things will occur to me, and I have like inspiration just in the silence. When you're silent, even for 15 minutes, I find that's really powerful, especially early in the morning. There's no pressure to quickly look at my review clips or my preview clips. There's no pressure to do anything rugby related in that so early in the morning. I find that helps me just feel myself a bit, because when I'm really manic about winning or fixing the defense, my head's all over the place, and I just want to do the next thing to fix the defense or have a one-on-one or send a message. So that's one. The other thing is like sauna and training. So like the sauna steam room contrast bar thing does work well for me personally, where I don't have to lift super heavy. I'll just do 2-3 compound movements, push, pull, and I like to do some functional stuff, like you kind of like grappling movements, hit a bag, boom, and I go down sauna, like in increments of 10 minutes, plunge, go back in, come back out, etc. And that's sort of like resets me. I find the sauna can really bring down that adrenaline cortisol effect where you feel like, oh, I'm just on fire. And then spending time with my kids, I think that one of the things is when you're coaching flat out, nothing feels important except the game. And that is a real weakness in a sense. The superpower is when you're so obsessed that you don't stop, that you have to do that to be in this game. Like people laugh and say, obsession. Honestly, if you're not obsessed with your defense morning, noon, and night, you can't coach at this level. But there's a time where you've got to say the people that are going to reignite you and give you that trust is actually your family. So listening to my daughters, I actually switch my phone off when I come in to see them. Off, and I can't, like, to turn it on is like a pain in the butt to look at something and just be there and actually take in what they're saying to me. I feel rejuvenated from giving them that time. Obviously, it takes away the guilt, number one. Number two, there's nothing nicer than your children wanting to tell you about their life. And those three things mean a lot, is spending time alone in the morning, then doing the push-pull with the sauna and stuff, and then actually switching my phone off to see what my family's saying to me, because your family needs your presence and then your essence. And you take them for granted. Yeah. Just give me a minute. I'm looking at a clip. Give me a minute. I've got to call the coach. Give me a minute. And you know what? You're actually not at your best if you're telling your family every time, give me a minute. And what I found at the end of this last 2-3 years I was doing, which is like, no. When I come home, whatever the time is, whether it's a 5 o'clock day from 5 o'clock in the morning to 5 or 5 to 7, the swing phone goes off straight down. And I'm all in on them. And I mean all in, no matter whether they push me upstairs, down the stairs, to the bath, back downstairs, outside again, it doesn't matter. And nothing interrupts that flow. Whatever they want till bedtime is theirs. And I actually end up doing my homework at night on my laptop with a different heart, because my wife didn't have to say to me, your daughter tries to speak to you 5 times there. Like, you're only staring at your laptop. And they've got a point. Like, what are you doing? If winning a game is so important that you can't listen to your daughter trying to say, look at what I'm doing, Dad. It does get that bad, and you have to overcome that to create that positivity inside you. I don't know, what do you think?
Oh man, it actually hits home back to something that happened a long time ago with my youngest daughter. And my missus actually came to me one day and said to me, listen, your daughter's a bit upset. She said, whenever I speak to Dad, I get the impression he's not listening. Oh man, that broke my heart. And that was a game changer. And that's where a lot of things change. When I'm home, I don't look at my phone. I don't look at it. A lot of people think I'm present on Instagram. I'm actually not. Yeah. Even sometimes I will reply to a DM which was 3 weeks ago, and I would say my apologies. Honestly, I'm not present on social media. I'll post some stuff out for the pod and things which I feel is important. But I do believe at balancing, and that's something which I've learned even now. Even though I'm not like yourself, we might not be coaching full time, but we are consulting, we are mentoring. We got a lot going on. We got other businesses on the side that's keeping us busy in full blown. And I actually schedule out my week and make sure I fit in those family blocks. And even now, I've got a family member that's visiting, and I'm a bit pumped. And I was forced to say, you know what? I'm going to be busy today. I potentially might not see you, but I freed up time on Wednesday. I freed up time on Thursday, and the weekend I'm all yours. So I think that's important. But coming back to us coaches, and I'm currently in finishing off 6-week cohort with the coaches in the Scrum Dominator mindset. And what I explained to him, you can be passionate about the Scrum, or you can be passionate about any other game. And you mentioned, like, sometimes the game is everything for us, which shouldn't be the case. But, and sometimes, unfortunately, if you want to achieve that high performance in the sport, that you got to kind of have that mindset, but you got to find that balance. You got to recalibrate yourself. And I agree. I was someone that thought journaling is the biggest bunch of BS. But I found that just having that place, that time for myself, and like you mentioned, not touching your phone, not checking Instagram, not listening to a podcast, just taking time for yourself and just assessing, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I want to achieve today. These are the challenges that I want to do. Or like, for example, yesterday I was like on the podcast with Jim Hamilton. I loved it. I enjoyed it. And it was awesome, for not being the host, being the guest on the show.
What a pleasure,
It was a pleasure. It was great. It was awesome. I really enjoyed it. And I hope I didn't speak too much shit. But anyway, that's their problem. They got a great editing team. But it's important to have that process, have that time where you are just switching on. And like you, and I've always trained, but I've learned now to train a bit better, because because guys like us, we are resilient. We got so much in reserve, and we can be tired, we can be smashing, but we just want to go hard, go hard. So I've learned to balance that. Like, for example, I'm still getting used to doing zone 2 training. I think it's the biggest waste of time, but for some reason it's helping me as a coach, adding that blocks of low intensity training, but still getting the work in. But sauna, that's been actually a big game changer for me. Huge game changer. Not just allows me to sleep better, but that's where my greatest ideas come, because I need to be quiet. And I think my biggest advice to coaches will be is kind of like get rid of all the clutter. Find those blocks where you, even if it's just 30 minutes on a day, just sit. Just sit with with your thoughts. You'll be, how can I say, shocked what comes out there. Last year, I did a challenge. It was this amazing book I read. And for one whole week, I was not allowed to use my phone or my computer if it was not work related.
Wow. That must have been difficult.
And that stage, I was at La Rochelle. I was on my own. My family was here in Toulouse. And I would eat dinner. I didn't know what to do with myself. And you had like 2 hours to kill.
I would fail that test.
The only thing you were allowed to do was to write or to listen to music with no words.
Oh my God.
But I will tell you this, what it actually did is, and as I'm going on a different track, what actually allowed me to appreciate things more, appreciate the food that I'm eating, going for a walk, enjoying those type of things. But anyway, listen here, Omar, I've got 1 or 2 more questions left here because, we'll be going on quite long and I feel we can go on for ages. And I just want to say this has been a brilliant so far. Okay, just coming back to defense. All right, very important. What do you feel are the biggest misconceptions that teams have about defense? All right, what are the biggest misconceptions, or what are the biggest mistakes that teams make when it comes to defense?
Or the biggest mistakes they make, or the mistake coaches make?
I would say the players. Well, the mistakes the players make.
Oh, players make most common. The most common mistake is believing that just understanding the system is going to get them through. When you talk about physicality, I think players go, physicality, I got it. I think very few players understand what physicality really takes and how it keeps them safe in their defensive performances. I think they want to move across to system and clarity very quickly. That's a common mistake. What keeps you safe is your preseason prep to create a robust, explosive individual. Put as much time into that as you can every time you have the opportunity, and top that up throughout the season as much as you can. Because the misconception is, I've prepped in preseason and now it's all done. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, it's a slog. Don't make the mistake of thinking preseason conditioning to make you explosive for defense is a slog. It's not a slog. It's going to give you the robustness and it's going to give you the success on defense you need. Because no point knowing where to be in every slot on the field, and then when you're there, you can't maintain your intensity. So that's the biggest mistake I'd say players make.
Yeah. No, thanks for that, man. I still have a long list of things which we didn't even get through. And, I think I'm going to leave that window open so I can get you eventually on for a third episode, because the things I would love to touch on, how do you build your defense from line out? How do you build your defense from scrums? Those are the things which we haven't spoken about, but I'd rather get you on for another episode about that, because
no problem.
I do believe that's something that shouldn't be rushed in. And, I think the biggest thing, and this is the last question I want to ask you, is, as a defensive coach, what are the traits that you are looking for in the player? A player, that's obviously there are different roles. We have identified that. That's clear. But what is their key traits? So maybe just for the players listening, and they want to make a good impression on their head coach or their defensive coach, what are the key traits that a defensive coach is looking for in the player?
Conscientiousness is the first one. The conscientiousness to understand that pitching up at the training is not the primary thing. It's everything you do before. So understanding how much homework you need to do before you attend a review or before you attend a preview. So the best players are conscientious. They watch their clips. They watch the opposition's clips without anyone telling them anything. They've got a great background on what they need to improve and do coming into the week, and what role they're going to play, and what role they're going to play in overcoming the opposition. Conscientiousness is massive. The next is consistency. If your bottom line performance in training is 7 out of 10 for the whole year, that's better than being 10 out of 10 5 times and then 2 out of 10 15 times. So I would say conscientiousness and consistency are the two biggest things. If you got that, you're solving all the problems for yourself, because then you'll have availability because you train well, you're always prepped physically and mentally, so you'll be available for selection all the time, which is your biggest currency. And second of all, you'll enjoy things more because when you arrive, you're being meaningful. I think conscientiousness and consistency are two biggest things.
No, okay, awesome. No, thanks for sharing that, man. That's brilliant. And I hope everybody enjoyed today's episode with Omar here on the Coach G Show. And I just want to take some time just to say thanks for everybody that has helped me since the show has evolved into the new show. And also, I'm also looking for any help from your side. I'm looking to grow the show. I would love to move it over to in-person podcasts. But in order for that, I need some sponsors that are willing to join me on this journey and accompanying myself as coach and really getting some unbelievable guests on the show. And for you guys as the audience, what would be great is to make sure that you subscribe to my show, whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple. There's a lot of you that are liking the show, leaving great comments, but are not subscribed. But that said, as a coach, I will be dedicated and committed to making sure to having unbelievable guests like Omar today, and also do my due diligence to pose those tough questions which the coach can't answer.
You clocked me today.
All right. So before we sign off, Omar, is there anything you would like to share? Is there anything you're busy with at the moment that you would like the audience to know about? Anything maybe in your community or your mentorships?
Yeah, so I run a program called Guardian Angel, and Guardian Angel just means that I mentor and coach teams and individuals as if I'm on their team like a Guardian Angel, except that I have to pay my full-time salary. So that basically means if you're a head coach or defense coach and you want your team either to be promoted up a league or not be relegated or improve performance, I do a 360 appraisal based on the brief you give me. So whether it's fixing your defensive system, your preseason, or how you set the scene and how you roll out your season and be more effective, or just to revise your whole defense system, for the Guardian Angel program. So you get in touch and we create a bespoke program for the team and the individual coaches, because you could do your levels and things, but not many people have the ability to sit in front of somebody who's got a lot of experience and say, how do I have a bespoke plan to help me succeed and make my team succeed? So Guardian Angel is my primary business, and on there with all different defense defense courses that can buy digitally, which is all my tutorials and field sessions with hundreds of hours of drills and ideas. And the last thing is there's a bunch of leadership stuff on how to maintain your defensive leadership in a team. So if you go to whistle2whistle.com, it's there, or omardefense.com.
Awesome. All right. I was just about to ask you how they can access. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
What's it called? Whistle2whistle.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of the best things to do is catch me on Instagram and just drop me a DM and just say hi.
All right, awesome. So obviously, guys, we'll be posting a bunch of content as well on social media to showcase this episode. So make sure to go also to our Instagram page, The Coach G Show, and you'll definitely see Omar show up there with his crazy energy. And Omar, it was unbelievable. And I'm actually glad that we're going to stop right now, because there's so much more I want to go into, and that kind of leads you're going to be breaking ground. And also, by the way, I'd just like to mention, just going to say congratulate you. Your previous podcast episode that you did with us was in the top 3. It was probably one of our highest listened to podcasts on the show. So I just want to say well done on that. You definitely resonated with all.
It's due to your charisma and your questions, man.
Okay. But all right, Omar, thanks for joining us, and hope you have an unbelievable day, and looking forward to see what your new coaching job is going to look like. And all right, cross your fingers for me as well. I'm also still out there looking for the new gig. But anyway, thanks to everybody that joined us today, and please to continue to support the spot. Thanks. Ciao. Bye-bye.